Hi, this is David and welcome to the channel. So I wanted to do a bit of an intro to the next video I'm going to be releasing. The reason I did this task was I really wanted to move the cross member 6 inches forward on the big water in order to get the more weight on the wheel. So I did a series of tests. I'm going to talk about that in a different video where I actually weighed the tongue weight under various configurations. But in order to do that test, I actually had to then move the cross member. Now, it really is a brand new install. In other words, it's a new cross member. It's new legs. I shrunk it based upon user feedback. The upcoming video you're about to see is the most compressed version of about 22 minutes of a Freedom Launcher install I've ever done. It's the one I would recommend that you use as a basis for especially through-hole installations on the Freedom Launcher. Thanks, hope you enjoy it. My philosophy about where to put mounting locations is vertical loads really require vertical structure to accept. As far as where to put this, I want to put this mounting hole, given the fact that I want these spacers here, as close to this vertical structure. This is what's going to take the vertical load, but move it so that that hole is as close to the inside edge as possible given the clearance. And then just go ahead and do that. This becomes a drill. This really becomes a drill guide for both the 1/4 inch and the 5/16 bolts. And the crossbar is going to do something like that. Over up there. So I've just used things like packing foam or some wood shims, plastic shims, and at least get the crossbar up there, up against the grill mount. That's working pretty well. I like that. And can drill into it, won't hurt. And you could use like a wood clamp once you get it kind of this close. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this upside down, but sorry for the crazy angle. But you can basically just see that there's the nice little ridges on the grill mount that match to the edges of the crossbar. So you just can eyeball that, and if it's eyeballed close, that's centered enough to drill your 2 holes where the 5/16 mounting bolt goes between the grill mount and the cross member. And these are the drill guides, so makes it really easy to get those holes just right. Then all we're doing is we're just measuring this distance and making sure that the crossbar is approximately centered the way we like it, even though we haven't cut off this edge. Yeah, just make it 9, call it 9 1/4 at this point. Putting them on new crossbar. See how easy that was? I'm just taking off just a little, just a tiny little shavings so that the bolt will go through easily. Is simply take the right leg that's already happy in this receiver and just put it back in again. Observe what it looks like up against the hole. Yeah, okay, now what I'll do is I'll just temporarily put a wheel on and just watch the stroke as it goes past the hole and see if I like the looks of that. And I realize we're a little sloppy up there. So where things are at, I'm going to go ahead and start to drill some holes. I'm going to mark the inside and the outside right next to the gorilla bracket. So kind of mark on the cross member where the inside and the outside is. What I've done here is just put a couple skinny pieces of plywood. They're like, I think even 1/2 inch or less, underneath the gorilla bracket, just to prop it up, as well as this clamp. And so I'm just going to hold it, and we're going to just use the gorilla bracket as a guide to drill the hole into the cross member, double checking, making sure that I like the alignment of the cross member left to right. I know side to side, this is where I want it. I just want to make sure it's left to right. Go straight in and punch it through. Okay, that's the top skin. I'm gonna go ahead and put a collar on this so that I cannot go too far. And that is a little a stop collar on this 5/16 drill bit. So I'm down to the top layer. I need to go another 1/8 inch, but I'm going to go about another 1/4 inch through, and all that. Go ahead and punch this through the next layer. Put one of your 3-inch bolts into that drill hole, and it just becomes like a keeper. That hole, and keep it where it needs to be. Snap off, and just trusting on the other hole, and the push on that feels solid. I'm going to lift up on it though, just to make sure it's tight up against the griller mount as I'm drilling. I see a nice orange circle underneath there, so we got her where we want it. Locator keeper. I'll just temporarily keep it up. The same clamping method over here. And I'm just looking at it and making sure it looks square. Going for it. Okay. And then one more here. We have located the cross member with respect to the gorilla brackets, but we haven't finished this side. But we've kind of done what I'd call, you know, the technical work. From here on out, what we're going to do is measure from the center over, duplicate that measurement over here, cut it off at the 8-degree angle, deburr it, drill the holes with the tooling. I've made quite a debris field of aluminum chips here, and that's the right and that's the left. And what we do is we provide about 3 to 4 inches of excess material. We're going to cut this at an 8-degree angle. Now I prefer to use this, what is it, 12-inch 96 tooth non-ferrous blade on my sliding miter saw. But if you don't have that, or you don't want to invest in one of those, I suppose you could use a bandsaw, you could use a hacksaw, you could use all sorts of ways in order to get an 8-degree cut with a compass or protractor. That's what I used to do before I had a really precise sliding miter saw, and I just set this at 8 degrees and away we go. Now, one of the critical things you want to do is make sure that, you know, the angle should be creating a V, right? So this is the front. This is the front, this is the back, and you want to be sloping it just like your kayak is sloped with a V. So make sure the wide end is in the front here, and that the wide end is in the front. So just to double check, you know, it's kind of sloping in towards my body, sloping in towards my body. I've got it oriented properly, and because I don't want to make the wrong cut, or I may have a disappointing day. We put some tape right on the outside of the gorilla bracket here, and what that allows us to do is measure from here out, and from here should be the same distance. The tape 10 3/8. So I basically have given myself the same wiggle room on both sides, and now we're going to cut at the end of this bar. We're going to then use this tooling to precisely put it underneath and precisely drill the hole. So this tooling is provided. I'll take this and just bump it up against a rubber mat just to get the shavings out. I can vacuum that up later. Still a few shavings. So now what I'm going to do is just clean up the ends of this. What I like to do is deburr the inside, deburr the outside a couple times with this little Shaviv deburr. Pull, I like to just kind of pull on it. That's really all there is to it. Go ahead and take that tape off now. Yeah, one last thing I like to do would be to just clean up the holes here because as the drill pressed through on the bottom, you know, it left a little bit of a material. So one last operation, and that is the end cap drilling procedure. It's really very basic. So this needs to fit like this. Now the bar, typically probably it's going to be upside down because you want to match the curve, the front edge of this with the front edge of the unfinished tube. It's a slip fit just like so. What I'd recommend, what I like to do is just put a quick disconnect wood clamp there so it doesn't move on you. Grab your 5/16 drill bit. You can see how nice that borehole looks now that we've got it drilled through there. Have our holes, and again, since we just made them, I'm going to go ahead and deburr them a little out here, but that's pretty good. So that being said, now the last step is going to be, okay, now it's back, this is on top, this is the left, and this baby's going to be a friction fit, right? So it's going to be, well, okay, it slipped in pretty good actually. And now, there could be a little bit of misalignment with those holes. This end cap has been pre-drilled with some holes, but everything has to line up perfectly. And you may need to remount that plastic so that the bore is clean for the bolt, right? So there you have it. We now have a completed crossbar assembly with both canted in at the same degrees. We've used this tooling to get the precise holes and the precise angle. We've measured it so that it just fits my boat. It's a solid piece of structure that's going to take the torque. It's going to transmit torque all across between both wheels are going to be putting into this. It's a solid, rigid structure, and it really is a great way to transmit all those loads from the hull, from the wheels into the hull. And do it in a way that is as soft as possible on the boat. So the next step really is just to go and install it on the boat and go have fun. So here's the finished crossbar. The only thing I did while we were away, while I was letting the GoPro batteries charge, is I replaced, there was a circular cushion, and I replaced it with this half moon cushion so that there could be just a little bit of flex there. That way this maintains you know, uniform contact onto the hull, and any irregularities in the shape between this surface and that surface is taken up by two parts on this design that has some curvature. So let this take up the misalignment and let that bolt go wherever it wants to go. So the first thing I want to do really is just rigidly mount the crossbar to the gorilla brackets. I think what I like to do is have the bolt heads on top and the nuts on the bottom, because I think I have clearance to do that. And washer, lock washer, and nut. Just hand tight for now, and then we'll tighten them all up together. I need to go get my 1/2-inch nut driver. This will work in a pinch. All right. So we're compressing plastic, and there's absolutely no reason, excuse me, to make this excessively tight. We really don't want to put that plastic in too much compression. I'm just going to do like that. I can't really tell you how much to do it, but it's just a very light pressure. Absolutely, you can kind of see my hand is on the, you can kind of see what I'm doing, right? That's it. That's all it needs to be. Just tight enough so that the lock washer does its job and the joint stays secure. But that crossbar is now not going anywhere. We have completed the fixed mount assembly to the kayak. Woo! Other than I guess the freedom brackets. Now these freedom brackets, I mean, they're really the heart of the system. Unique and I think value added in many ways. Not the only thing, but one of the key things. Okay, that works very well, right? So this particular joint, because there's so much stress going in such a little area right on the end of this tube, so I recommend actually using a torque wrench to tighten that to 18 foot-pounds of torque. That's all it took. Now it's time for the torque wrench to tighten up that joint. Double check. Okay, now we can say that the fixed mount assembly is complete. The angle between the post pivot pole and the axle, you have to make the axle hole straighten out so that it's parallel to the other side so that the wheels go down straight. That's why you know, there's 4 different leg styles for the 4 different leg sweeps to fit the majority of all the fishing kayaks that I've surveyed, from Old Town, Hobie, Jackson, Native, Bonafide. Bigger package are going to come in a kit, and then within the kit, the legs are going to look like this. And one thing you'll notice is in the inside, somehow they'll be marked with an 8L and an 8R, right? So there is a right and a left leg, and you got to make sure you get the right leg on the right side so that the leg is going straight down. At the end of the day, we now have an assembled right leg. And it's going to go in like so. I'm going to initially center that, and the leg's just going to sit there like that. And then I'm going to take off the leg pivot pin and put it in here. You can kind of see the shadow of the hole if you look right from the top to be able to help with your alignment. Again, doesn't matter, but this is the top. Top goes to top. Slide the handle pivot pin through the top hole. Yeah, this is kind of hard just to get the hole aligned. Maybe you look from the other side and kind of see how you're doing from an alignment standpoint. There we go. Okay. It's a tight fit, as it should be. But that went pretty well, actually. And then all you're going to do is just stretch that spring ever so slightly, and I like to just put the bolt in from behind. You could go either way, but I like to put the bolt like so and slide it through the bore to engage the lock nut, but you want to leave play in this joint so the spring is free to slide around a little bit. It's great. We have an assembled left leg. Handle goes on top. Slide it in from the top and just let the front just rest in the front lock, which would be the stowed position. And just put the lock pin in place. Folks, I think we've got it. You can see the legs as they look right now with 8-degree cant, 8-degree leg sweep. I'm loving it, man. I just can't wait to pop these babies up. I need to take my kayak brace off because I need it to finish the assembly. And so going to attempt to do this with 1.5 hands. You're getting a very up close and personal look there. So what you do, it's a solid stainless steel axle. Slide it in from the outside, from the inside out. Slide on the post pivot spacer or the wheel spacer, and then stainless steel safety pin on the end to keep that wheel where it needs to be. Team, we did it. We've got her done. This Freedom launcher is installed and ready to rock and roll, other than just maybe removing the tape on the crossbar. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Very, very happy with all that. Gonna drop the wheel on both sides until it's just touching the ground. And then all we have to do is lift, and it should lock right into place like it did the last time. And there we have it. Ready to roll.